Control is not always obvious, right? We always talk about in an abusive relationship, there is power and control. There's this big power imbalance. And we talk about all the ways that abusive men try to establish that control and power. And obviously, controlling you works really well. And something that has been really surprising to learn over the years that I've been talking about this is that when I would learn about how other people have been controlled, it was like, that didn't happen to me, right? So I actually very much recall talking about, well, my abuser was not actually controlling at all. And I had a very epiphany moment realizing that there are so many other ways to do it. So I want to talk about feeling like you are being controlled, not feeling free, not feeling autonomous, and yet you are not being controlled. Let's talk about the subtle and covert ways that control actually does show up in these relationships. And something that a lot of people know about, but actually not enough do, is coercive control. And an example that I often will give about coercive control, we're all, women, so no matter what you look like, where you're from, one thing we know is that men like long hair, right? I know it's really not all men, but so let's use this example of long hair. You are not allowed to cut your hair. That's very controlling, right? You are not allowed to go to your friend's house. That is not allowed. You are not allowed to go to clubs. You are not allowed to go to dinner with your friends. All these rules. That's very obviously controlling. I air quote because when you're in it, it can feel in, many different ways. Control, shockingly, can feel like love. And they're good at positioning it that way. So that's a little bit more obvious. Let's talk about how a controlling person will use that, but behind a sort of a mask. So it's not a matter of you're not allowed to, but let's say, man, women with short hair, disgusting, right? They look like boys, disgusting. Now, let's say you have long hair. You are learning not to have short hair. You're learning that you can't cut it short. But what if you do have short hair and it's like, oh, women with short hair, nah, so that's not for me. And you're like, I literally have a pixie cut, or I literally have a bob, or whatever. And it makes you sort of, maybe then you grow your hair a little bit. I really like your hair like that. Praise, compliment, seems nice, flattering, right? That praise is meant to feed into, this is what I like. And I want to be clear because I know that god-awful men who are watching are like, oh, so I can't even pay her a compliment now? Nobody's talking to you, okay? Shh. What we're talking about is the sort of invisible cage that women find themselves in with a man who is coercively controlling, who will do things like you can go to dinner with your friends. And this is where my own example of he wasn't controlling at all. I was allowed to go to dinner with friends. I could do whatever I wanted. As long as I had my phone on the table face up and would answer whenever he called. Because if I didn't call, and that wasn't a rule, he didn't say that. But if he would call or text and I didn't answer, oh, what, your friends are so important? What the hell could you possibly have been talking about that you couldn't even answer the phone? Who keeps their phone on silent? Why didn't you hear my message? Calls you multiple times or calls you even once, and then you hear about it. So the next day, there's some issue with you didn't answer your phone or whatever. Maybe whether you live together or not. My point is there's a consequence. So you go out with your friends and then he's pissy all weekend. You wanted to go out on Friday night, do you? You must be exhausted from going out. So now we're not going to dinner on Saturday night. Too bad. There's some kind of consequence. So you have the freedom to do whatever you want, as long as you're okay with the absolute horrible consequences that come with sulking, stonewalling, pissy moods, something taken away, withdrawal of affection, anything. This is coercive control. And it is really important to name it because it's gradual and it is wrapped in care. It seems like, it's not that I don't want you to go to clubs. I'm nervous that a man is going to hurt you, or I don't want you to be downtown at night alone. It's unsafe. And it's presented like that, right? Or I never told you that you can't go to your mom's house. Meanwhile, when you go to your mom's house, it's like, oh, again, God, spend so much time with your mom. It's like you don't even love your family. Or like, yeah, you want to go? No problem. That's fine. If you want to choose your mom over me, then like whatever. This is coercive control. Let's name it. Let's call it what it is. Because he doesn't call it control. It's, I'm protecting you. Or, I don't know, your mom seems to hate me. Your best friend, like, she always gives me these looks, right? Like, it's nothing. But they're saying these little digs to get you to change your behavior. So it does actually shift your behavior. That's key. He has modified what you think is normal, and he's modified your behavior to accommodate what he's trying to get at. But he never said, so if you were like, you make me feel like I can't see my friends, or you get mad when I see my friends. No, I don't. I let you do whatever you want. What are you talking about? Controlling. I'm not controlling. Meanwhile, he's incredibly controlling, but you don't recognize it. But then, to me, hear me out on this next one, okay? So we're talking about direct control, coercive control, and then this is the one that messes people up, and this is what happened to me. Praise. Praise is fascinating. It's a reward system. I learned about this while recording a live podcast, okay? And I was like, oh my God. So it's exaggerated approval when he gets what he wants. It's silence when he doesn't. It's, and I'll use a personal example. Mine would be like, I always love that I know where you are. You're not one of those hoes gallivanting around. That's what he would say. And I would be like, I'm good. Right? I loved that. I was the good girl. I literally would be like, this is where I am. I'm home, selfie, like proving, and because I wanted his validation. And like in hindsight, my God, I wanted his validation and I wanted that approval. But you could get, it can show up in so many different ways. It can be, it's personal, right? It's whatever appeals to you. So if that's like gifts or more time together or, compliments or whatever sort of speaks to you, whatever makes you feel good, right? Like this kind of guy is usually relatively image conscious too, right? Because he doesn't want people to see him as controlling, so he won't even use coercive control. I don't know, this is my take on it, the levels of like the controlling guy that just like, that's how it should be, the open misogynist. And then there's the coercive control guy who's like, in my opinion, not quite smart enough to realize that we can see through this. You might not be able to when you're in it, but the outside world is just like, he really cares about you, or, like, he has my location. Let's say that, right? He's got my location. Do you have his? Because often the answer is no, but he has your location, but it's for safety. It's for safety, right? I just want to know where you are. I want to make sure you're not kidnapped. I love you. You don't want me to love you? What's wrong with you? And meanwhile, he wants to know where you are at all times. Men are like, I'm not controlling. I have a client whose husband is not controlling at all, but every time she physically leaves the house, she's a stay-at-home, she leaves the house, they have a doorbell camera, he knows she's leaving, and he'll call her. Hey, just checking in, what's up? How's your day? You know that she just left the house. You want to know where she's going. But see how it's not controlling, because he's not saying you can't go to the store. He's just like, hey, how are you? But only when she walks out her front door and triggers the camera. This is control. But so many times it's just presented in such a different way, right? He wants to be the good guy. He doesn't want to look like he's overtly controlling. So he finds ways to sidestep this through being coercively controlling or using a reward system and praise, right? I absolutely hate it. And it works because we're wired this way, right? Particularly if you're in a trauma bond. And just very quickly, for those that don't know, a trauma bond is an unhealthy emotional attachment in a relationship where there's an oscillation of kindness mixed with abusiveness. So hot and cold, and you become very invested in, attached to this. So you start chasing the validation when you're in a trauma bond with someone, and you get conditioned to want that, right? Because in the beginning, he gave it freely. Now it comes when you comply. And I'll give you an example. And actually, it's almost a funny example. This is the lip gloss that I wear. I'm not selling this, I promise. I'm not an affiliate. Burt's Bees Lip Shimmer Pink Peony. It's my favorite. And rarely I would wear a color. And my opinion, and I don't care what anyone else's opinion is, my opinion is I look nice in lipstick. I choose to wear it very rarely. But sometimes it's like a nice punch of color. But he would see other women wearing lipstick and be like, ugh, she looks like a clown. Ugh, clown. Do you think that I put lipstick on in the entire decade? Like maybe once. Because I knew better. I got praise for wearing lip gloss. And other women got called clowns. Never to their face, of course, right? But what did I learn? My best friend was a clown. She wore dark red lipstick. Beautiful color, looked amazing on her. Clown, because he didn't like it. And what's crazy too is that so many men think that we're dressing for them, right? Actually, like if I want to wear lipstick, I'll wear lipstick. But I didn't wear lipstick. You'd think I'd wear it all the time now as like revenge or something, but I do wear it sometimes. But essentially, you're actually being trained like Pavlov's dog, right? You hear the little bell, ding, and off you go, and you don't wear lipstick or you don't go out with your friends and you do the good behavior. So me, I was the good girl because I didn't act like those women, which is an interesting sort of subtopic of how men divide women. And it's like the women who do that are bad women. You don't want to be like those women. And it creates a divide. And to be fair, is you see this in the patriarchy, right? The 29 and under and the 30 and above, us old, haggard, bitter, awful cat ladies, right? Whether you have cats or not, you're that category, but it keeps the young women from learning from the older women, the experienced women, because they created the divide. Those young women don't want to be bitter and washed up and old like us. But when you get older, suddenly you're looking at the younger women like, girl, you need to listen to me, but they won't. And they'll wear, their hair short. If he likes it short, they'll wear it long if he likes it long, and we fight for the male gaze. But that's how they do it, is they divide us. Praise is brutal. It feels good. It feels good. He loved me, right? He just loved me, and he just wanted to know where I was to keep me safe. And there's nothing controlling about this. And yet it is so controlling, right? But you don't see it. Now, the other piece, which is kind of fascinating, is using other people to control you. And it could be comparing you to other women. Like, isn't Daniela such a clown when she wears lipstick? And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, but he's using other people. So it could be like, when I was talking to your sister last week, she said that conversation never happened, right? But she said that she thought you were gaining weight. I don't agree with her. I thought that was kind of mean. What do you think? Causing crap, right? Now you're self-conscious, but he never said it. Your sister allegedly said it, but didn't actually say it. And yeah, she told me not to tell you. So if you question it, it's like, did she say that or did she not say it? So suddenly you don't trust people. So it creates isolation, but it also creates like, do I need to lose weight? So it's really tricky. Everybody, so mine used to do this too. Everybody thinks you're hard to get along with. Not like I don't think so, not me, other people. They say that, other people. What people? People. People have said that to me. What people? People. And it's like, right? But that's the crazy making. It's the comparisons. It is triangulation. It's twists you around. So it's like an insecure man, although I will point out that insecurity is not what drives this behavior, but it's an insecure man that like is outwardly dominant and he kind of relies on other people. Like he's not strong enough to just express an opinion. And he doesn't want to seem controlling. So he's using other people to make that be the case. So using others to control you, praise, coercive control, and just straight up control. But I think what's extra crazy making is the way that victims of abuse, survivors of abuse, actually self-police themselves, because you second guess what you say, you second guess how you feel about yourself, what you're wearing, what you're saying, how you present yourself in the world, but it's all a result of things that he's put in your head, right? This is something that the seed that he planted is what I would say, right? So unpredictable punishments, making you walk on eggshells, things like that. You internalize the rules of your relationship and then you police yourself. So as an example, he never had to tell me to not wear the lipstick. He would praise me for wearing lip shimmer, and he would slander women who wore dark lipstick as clowns. So I chose to stop wearing it. At no point did he ever tell me I couldn't. At no point did he ever tell me I had to keep my phone on when I was out, but I did. Why? I policed myself. And you don't recognize it because you are respecting your partner, and you don't recognize it because he loves you and, you know, you're being thoughtful, but actually he's living in your head, right? So you are policing yourself, and all of this works together, right? And twisting words, reframing how you said you feel. You know, when somebody repeats back to you, like the active listening skill, but this is when they use a straw man argument, right? So you're saying that, and it's like, I didn't say that at all. So now you're defensive, but now you've learned what language to use and how to speak and how to think and how to present yourself, right? Like you twist yourself to accommodate this person, and you are now destabilized and you trust his version. And it's all under this guise of maybe showing your relationship respect. Although I would like to just take a step back and point out that that's not necessarily a two-way street, is it? You know, you don't have his location. You hate that blue shirt that he always wears, but he wears it. I used to hate the fact that he would wear wrinkled clothing. And I mean like wrinkled. I don't just mean like a couple. I mean balled up on the floor, teenage boy kind of wrinkled. And it didn't matter, right? Because you want it unwrinkled, go iron it. You don't, like, he doesn't care. That's the trick. You are too busy defending yourself instead of actually noticing the patterns of this. But someone that uses any of these tactics, it's very controlling, but it's calculated. It's very calculated. And we often tie some of these behaviors to intelligence, like mine's not smart enough to strategically be coercively controlling instead of controlling. But it actually is much more natural. It is a learned behavior, but it's much more natural to them. They learn, you know, oh, this may not be a conscious thought, but stick with me. If I say you can't go to dinner, she's going to tell her friends that I'm controlling and I don't want to be seen that way. So I'm just going to flip out on her when she gets home. I'm just going to ignore her and be randomly pissy for no reason for 3 days, for 3 days, because she'll learn to associate going out with her friends with the silent treatment for 3 days, and then she'll want to avoid that. No, that's not conscious. That's not intelligence. I think when we talk about smart and intelligent men, you know, some are, but I might put that more in an academic category, but this is natural. This is manipulation. This is what they've learned. It's the same way you know not to touch a hot stove. Do you know? It's conditioning. It's exactly right. It's conditioning. It is, you just know. You just know not to do that. So he just knows that this works the same way that you know that it works. You know not to go to dinner. He knows that he can get you to not go to dinner. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you have ever felt like, man, he's not controlling, but why do I not feel like I'm free? Could it be that it's because you are being coercively controlled or controlled through praise or policing yourself, or other people are inadvertently or not participating in this? The thing that we miss in the world, unless you've been through it, is that abuse is often covert. If this guy punches you in the face at the grocery store, I would say that's relatively obvious, though I get when you're in it, it may not be, but I'm saying to the outside world, it's very obvious. That's abuse. But if he shoots you a look at a dinner table or calls you 3 times or just is in a bad mood, it's so easy to justify those things as like, well, it's having a bad day. Or, you know, the other way that a man can control you, it fits into what I'm talking about. It's not like a new category, but let's say, like, perfect example, my ex cheated on me, and maybe she did. I don't, like, okay, let's pretend he's telling the truth. Okay. My ex cheated on me. My ex would say that I cheated on him and I didn't, right? So don't believe them when they all say this. But my ex cheated on me, so that's why you can't go to dinner. I don't want you to go to clubs because my ex cheated on me when she went to a club. So now I have to pay for the consequences of somebody else, right? But it's like, I'm just insecure. It makes me feel insecure when you go to a club. What actually is happening, if that were true, right? I mean, insecure people, I would argue, are not healthy, but hear me out. A healthy-ish person who feels insecure would say, I feel insecure when you go to a club, and I know that's my issue that I need to work on because I trust you. But I was wondering if you would be able to maybe check in with me once, shoot me a text. It would do a lot to make me feel connected to you. Not like check in with me every hour on video, blah, 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 but like, you know, just it centers their own feelings, their own responsibility, and it does ask something of you, which in a relationship you're fine to do, right? But it's just interesting. That's what it's so interesting how they kind of flip it. But insecure men don't weaponize it necessarily. You can become controlling. So you might be insecure, but you're also controlling. It's not just insecurity because he's trying to change your behavior to appease his insecurity rather than deal with his insecurity. Putting it on you. And that's all part of how they change your behavior. And it sounds so logical, right? I mean, honestly, if my partner, I don't know, I'm just making this up, like traveled all the time and then cheated on me on a business trip, and then end that relationship, I get into a new relationship and he takes business trips, and I'm like, well, you can't take business trips anymore because my ex took business trips and he cheated on me. I mean, you need to work that out, right? That has nothing to do with the new person, but they put it on you. And that's the difference. So if you are with someone who's like, yeah, but it's just because you are with someone who is weaponizing their own past, if it's even true, against you in order to control you. So I really want you to look at how control can show up differently. Because, I mean, someone just wrote in the comments, not all people are the same, and that is absolutely true. The abusers are humans. I know they do use a lot of the same tactics, and I know we talk about these tactics, but there's a lot of nuance within these topics that I think is really important, because not all control looks like control. And I'm telling you, live on a podcast, I was like, mine wasn't controlling at all. And then I started talking about praise, and she was like, do you realize that that is control? And I suddenly realized, oh my God, that's exactly what that is. So I just wanted to have that conversation with everybody and sort of outline the different ways that you can be controlled. And I want to just go through some of the comments now and see what people are asking. Well, there's a great question. Can they change? I think, when people say they, who's they, right? Are you talking about abusers, diagnosable narcissists? I think that, although the answer doesn't change much, but people tend not to change like who they are. And what we're talking about here is kind of a worldview. Abusiveness really comes from entitlement. It's a need for power and control, but it's an entitlement to that. So I really, they don't change. I think I always twist the question a bit that it's not that they can't, it's that they won't. And I think that a lot of people go too far down the can they? And can I explain it to them? And what if? And how about this? And what if I can be different and love them more and go to therapy, right? And I'm going to quote therapist Aisha Grevenberg. She was on my podcast, Real Talk with Lisa Sunny, Relationships Uncensored, season 1, episode 5. And she talked about therapy is not where abusive men heal. Therapy does not fix an abusive man. We always talk about couples therapy is not where you fix an abusive relationship. But what people are also not grasping is that it is actually a social issue. Male abuse of women is a social issue. It's not something that they can go to therapy and fix, because it is an entire worldview that they are entitled to behave this way, that women are less than. That's why they often deny it. Right? I'm not controlling. You're fucking crazy. I'm telling you, if you hook him up to a lie detector test, he would pass, because he would tell you that he's not controlling and he believes that he is not controlling. And yet he is controlling. And what we need to do is stop trying to convince them and explain to them that they are controlling, because not only do they not believe you, They don't want to believe you, because to believe you means that they need to give something up, and they are not interested in giving something up. The control is what they want. A lot of people are like, but wouldn't it be easier to just be happy? What do you mean easier? I mean, they're not aiming for easy, but also they're not aiming for happy. They're aiming to control you. Like, that's what they want. You are like, but wouldn't it be easier to be happy? You want to be happy. So your goal is, how can I be happy? Their goal is, how can I control her? So they are happy to control you. So you're working against each other in that sense. And they're never going to change. You want a simple answer? No. Earlier, somebody asked me what I think of the book, Why Does He Do That? By Lundy Bancroft. Like, it's the greatest book that's been written on the topic of abuse in decades, you know? It is such a good book. Why Does He Do That? By Lundy Bancroft is a book that everybody should read. And I love that it's not about narcissism. It's about abusive men, because screw the diagnosis. Another really great book is How He Gets in Her Head by Don Hennessy. D-O-N, Don Hennessy, How He Gets in Her Head. Phenomenal book. There's a lot of books that are really great, to be honest with you, that are like really, really great. I have a book. I have 4 books, but I have a book. Where did it go? Here. The Trauma Bond Recovery Journal. This is my first book. So if you are feeling stuck with a man like this, the Trauma Bond Recovery Journal is a great one. If you are out of a relationship with a man like this and you're rebuilding, then I have Rebuilding After a Trauma Bond, which is my other journal. These are all available on Amazon, anywhere in the world that you can get Amazon. They're also in the link in my profile. And someone's asking in the comments about the other 2 books that I said. It was Why Does He Do That? By Lundy Bancroft. And Don Hennessy wrote How He Gets in Her Head. They're phenomenal, phenomenal. Do grab those. Will the book be okay for lesbian relationships? Why does he do that? I will tell you that at the beginning of that book, somewhere in the early parts, he talks about why he wrote the book about men and not women. And that, yes, there are some overlaps, but the truth is, abusive women don't land in the exact categories that are outlined in this book. And I'm not trying to say that women can't be abusive or that there's no abuse in lesbian or gay relationships. Obviously there is, but it's not quite the same. It isn't. Men's abuse is a little bit different. So you will get something from the book, and I bet you any money, girl, I bet you will see your partner in that book. It's not totally off base. To me, it's worth getting. It is, because it outlines a lot of it. And it's not that different with women in the sense that it's on purpose. Like they are using that. Someone's asking about the workbooks again. So Trauma Bond Recovery Journal and this one, Rebuilding After a Trauma Bond, a Self-Love Journal. They're both available on Amazon. I have others too. The best way to search my books on Amazon seems to be putting in my name, Lisa. Last name is Sonny, which is S-O-N-N-I, and then filtering it by books, hit search, and all of my books will come up there. So do, check that out and have a look, because there's so many resources out there that can really be so helpful. And someone's asking in the comments about how do you know that you're in a trauma bond. I always give people 2 answers to that question. Number 1, I have a quiz. It's a free quiz. It takes 2 minutes. You get instant results. You don't have to buy anything. There's no strings attached. They get emailed right to you. And it's called Am I Trauma Bonded? So it's always in my profile or in the description on YouTube. You just click on that. It takes 2 minutes and you'll get the results. Am I Trauma Bonded? Free quiz. But I think that the explained answer is they hurt you and you want them. And now they might hurt you and you're like, I don't want to be here anymore. I know that feeling, but like you don't want to be there, and yet there you are, right? You're either in or out of the relationship, but you like feel drawn to them. You feel guilty, responsible, that you love and hate them at the same time. There's a real like push-pull. I think that's the simplest way to describe that. I'm just gonna take a few more questions. What do you mean praise as abuse? Well, I had a whole spiel. I'm actually gonna upload this video as a replay, but praise as abuse is like, oh, you're such a good girl, getting you to continue to do the behavior that they like staying home or dressing a certain way, right? Like, I love how conservative you dress. I love that you never show your chest. I love that you always wear long sleeves. And it's so nothing. It's so nothing. It's just a small thing. But meanwhile, you're like, oh, he likes when I wear long sleeves. He likes when, right? So the control that these men use, they are not interested in doing better or changing, because better by whose standard? Better by your standard. You mean better like no longer gain all the benefits of abuse? And when you actually recognize that, when you recognize that abusiveness is something that they benefit from and that it's on purpose, I'm telling you, you can't unsee it, because you're asking somebody to stop doing something that they enjoy, that they get a sense of worth and power from, and that they want that and like that and benefit. Why on earth would I give up my benefits of doing something? And I know what you're thinking, because it hurts someone else. What if I didn't give a shit? What if I have no empathy? You think I care if you're hurt? Why would I care? I get what I want and you get hurt. Anyways, how does that have any bearing on what I do? That's the same way they can cheat and they don't care about it. It's like, I cheated, but that doesn't mean I don't love you. It literally means that, by the way. But in their mind, it's like one has nothing to do with the other. It's crazy making. They will never stop. They will never change. There is no hope. And the truth is, you even look at professionals like Dr. George Simon, Dr. Peter Salerno, Dr. Ramani, they all say the same thing. These men will not change. And the reason is they need to give up a ton. They need to spend decades, plural, in therapy and reading books and consuming all the feminist type content, right? Where we're equals and there is no power imbalance, learning about the patriarchy, learning about male fragility, learning about male entitlement, and then unpacking it all, looking at the ways that they've hurt the people around them and completely fucking change who they are. Good luck. Do you know how much money that costs? Like, be for real, be logical. How much does that cost? You know how much therapy costs? I know you know. You know how long that takes? You prepared for that? You prepared for a decade where they may experience about 10% better? You're constantly having to fight it? And I'm talking about a man who's not a narcissist. Just an abuser. It's not going to happen. So I want to help you destroy the fantasy. I want to help you let go, because everything you can try and think and love him through it, and he promised this and he swears up and down, I promise you this time, I swear I'll change. Man's not going to change. And the craziest part is there's two types. I'm oversimplifying. There's two types. The ones that promise to change and beg you and then never do. And then the ones that don't promise anything because they just tell you it's your fault. Neither of those men are changing. Both of those men will control you. So the key is release it. So people can work with me one-on-one. My full-time gig is working with people to help break trauma bonds and rebuild who you are and your identity after you've broken them. So I have two things that I work on with people. I have group coaching programs, trauma bond recovery group coaching, and one called Rise and Rebuild. I co-host both of those with Dr. Peter Salerno. And I also have an event coming up in the San Diego area called Unbreakable and Irreplaceable that I'm also co-hosting with Dr. Peter Salerno. Focused on people who are rebuilding after a trauma bond, so people who are kind of on the tail end and just like want to focus on themselves. So please check all of that out on my website, which is linked in my profile, but strongerthanbefore.ca, not .com. So please check that out. And working with me, I have 7 certifications. I'm a certified relationship coach, and I help people specifically with trauma bonds and really just exiting and understanding and processing abusive relationships and their dynamics. I've written 4 books and I speak internationally on these topics. So I go live sporadically, and I always post the replays online on my YouTube. So please make sure you're following me on all the platforms, because I do post different content in all the different places. But I really appreciate everyone being here and listening to this. And I hope that you have learned something about control, that it's not just overt, obvious control, but that coercive control, control through praise, control through other people, and how that can lead you to police yourself. So this is a brutal situation to be in, but I hope to be able to help people exit and get out of this. So please make sure that you are following me, and then I will catch you at my next live. Thank you so much to everyone.